What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a horror film that was released this year that originally I wanted to see in the theater just because it looked absolutely insane. I figured that it was going to be pretty bad, but I was hoping that it would be so bad it's good and that there would be some really fun moments that made the film worthwhile. And that's the thing around this time of year and watching horror movies. I love all different kinds of horror movies. I love very serious psychological horror. I love schlocky, campy horror. I love so bad it's good horror movies. There's a wide array of the genre in the month to cover, and I thought this movie in particular would be a blast to discuss just because the premise of it seemed so absurd. And so today I'm going to talk about the film Slotherhouse. Slotherhouse is directed by Matthew Goodhue. Wanting to have a killer year, sorority sister Emily realizes she might be the best option for her sorority. While beginning her campaign for sorority president, she finds an adorable sloth that steals her heart and soon realizes she might just steal the hearts and votes of her sorority sisters. But when bodies slowly begin to pile up in the Sigma Lambda Theta house, Emily and her sorority sisters realize the deaths are being caused by their new house mascot, the cuddly sloth Alpha. So, as I said, absurdist premise. I was hoping this would be so bad that it was good just because of how ridiculous it is. And the movie was fun. It was enjoyable. There were moments in it that I really appreciated a lot, but it definitely falls short in a lot of ways. I think that one of the biggest flaws of the film is that it takes itself way too seriously in moments where I feel like if they would have rolled back a little bit and had a little bit more fun with the movie, that it would have been more absurd, more engaging. But because the friendship dynamics and the motivations of the lead character are like really taken very seriously, it's kind of hard for the camp always to bleed through. But I'll talk about that a little bit more when I break the film down. So as the plot description states, very simplistic. We're introduced to our lead character, Emily. She's going into her senior year at college, and she lives in this sorority house. Very elongated introduction to be introduced to every single one of the girls that lives in the sorority with these little like pop-up, almost like their Instagram usernames telling us a little bit about them, which felt kind of unnecessary because none of them really get a whole lot of screen time, and it felt just like a way to introduce them for when they started to get killed off so you could sort of know who they are. But she's moving into her sorority house. It's her last year. Her mom used to be the president of the sorority, and she wants to do the same thing. She wants to be the president of the sorority. She wants to get elected to do it. But the girl who's currently in charge, she's kind of a bitch, and she's afraid to cross her, that it might turn all the other girls in the sorority against her. And so one day, her and her friend are at the mall together, and she ends up saving this dog from running away, giving it back to this person. And this random guy comes up and has a conversation with her through the process, tells her, oh, you're so good with animals, has this conversation and says like, hey, would you be interested in adopting an animal? It's a really weird like interaction. And she's like, I don't know, I'm off at school, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, I have this sloth that like the silliest shit ever. And she's like, I don't know. So she ends up going back to the sorority. And eventually after all this stuff culminates, she's like, I'll get the sloth. So she calls the number the guy says to come meet him to get the sloth. The sloth kills him. She goes to the house, finds the sloth, realizes no one's at the house, so she just takes him to the sorority, makes the sloth the mascot of the sorority, gets her very popular, and the sloth starts killing all the sorority sisters off one by one. So it's a very simplistic slasher-like premise, and there are some really fun moments in this movie. Anytime the sloth is on screen, it is the dumbest, most absurd, over-the-top schlock that you could put in a movie. There's a sequence where somehow the sloth knows how to drive a car, the sloth can operate a cell phone, it can type on the computer. There's all these things that like really had me gutturally laughing because it's just so absurdly stupid. And with a movie like this, it's exactly what you want. If you're gonna have a sloth, you want it to be stupid, and I was very happy that it was a puppet. because earlier in the year I talked about a film called Cocaine Bear, that the bear was all CGI and it really took away from the movie a lot. I think if the film would have had someone in a bear costume, it would have been so much more enjoyable and engaging. And this movie, the sloth is a puppet, and it makes it way more fun because it is a puppet. And I love all the stuff with the sloth on screen. I think they really give the sloth a personality that is fun to watch, and as unbelievable as most of the movie is, it's so much fun to just sit and enjoy those moments. The problem, like I said at the beginning of the video, the movie takes itself so seriously. They try to have these dramatic undertones about the lead character's mom being a part of the sorority, a lot of her internal conflict about past friendships, and because it tries to be like very heavy dramatically at the beginning, it doesn't really always work with the camp, with the sloth, like the moments that are really absurd. I feel like a movie like this, I want it not to take itself seriously, like make the characters and their motivations relatively silly as well so that the tone balances out. I don't think you can really go for like hard-hitting drama when you're trying to make this campy movie about a sloth murdering people. They also try to put in a message about like animal abuse and removing animals from their habitat, and that doesn't really stick the landing either because of the way that you're trying to play the camp of the movie. It's just, tonally, it's a mess. The director, I think if you would have just stuck to schlock, it would have been way more fun. But because you take those dramatic elements a little too seriously, that pulled me out of it quite a bit. The pacing in this, funny enough, it's a movie about a sloth. I get it. It's slow, but the pacing in this is really slow. It takes a really long time to get going. But once it gets going, it's a lot of fun. The other problem I have is you paint this off as like a slasher movie where the sloth is the killer. And most of the kills are done in like a montage sequence in the middle that just kind of defeats the purpose of having a killer sloth as your character. Like, show them, have like fun sequences of the sloth committing these murders instead of just like jump cuts to each person in the sorority getting killed in this very brief like 10-minute period. And the third act of this is the most fun part of the movie. It blows up into this absolute insanity that I really appreciate, but the first part of the film drags so much and really has a hard time kind of finding its footing. But once they kind of establish the sloth as a character and how it interacts with these girls in this sorority house, it becomes really entertaining. And I didn't love this movie. I enjoyed it. It's not a good movie by any means, but it's fun and it's stupid. And if you want to watch a movie about a sloth killing sorority girls, I mean, it's funny. It feels like could have been like a cheap straight to like video movie from like the 80s or the 90s. And that level of charm to it, I appreciate it a lot. I just wish the film wouldn't have tried to take itself so seriously. I think if it would have rolled back a little bit and had some more fun with itself, it would have been a really great experience. But instead, it was just kind of fun. I enjoyed moments of it, and I think there's a lot worse you could watch around this time of year. So have you seen Slotherhouse? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was a lot of fun at moments. I feel like it took itself a little bit too seriously, and the pacing wasn't that great. And aside from those things, it's still a fine watch. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.